Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be showing you today how you can use layers to create depth in a background. And we're going to start this in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm starting off with an 800 by 600 box to start with. And to the left here I've just got my colour palette. You can use whichever colours you think will be right, but for this tutorial I'm just going to use these kind of like woody ones here. So first of all I'm going to name my layer Colour Background. Right, and I'm just going to use the rectangle tool and just drag this just to the fill of my board there. Obviously we don't really want a black, but I'm just going to use the eyedropper and just use this kind of mustardy colour here, just kind of create a soft background. But we also need to change the opacity of this one, otherwise it'll be too strong for what we're looking for. So in the blending mode I'm just going to choose overlay and just make my opacity about 40, 42, and then I'm just going to click back on here and just lock that layer. Now we're going to create a new layer, and this one we want above this because we're going to just create the foreground first. So for this we're going to want to use the black. So if you choose your rectangle tool and just quickly write this front layer, and we just want to maybe just create a box for the moment just to start all this, just like so. And you can see we have got no fill on that as well, so we don't need to worry about that at the moment. Right, so we've got the bottom here of our front layer, and we're just going to use the direct selection tool just to move this slightly, and then back with the selection tool, just make it a bit longer. Now along in your toolbox you've actually got a width tool, which are good for if you've got a stroke, but for this one maybe a warp tool might be quite good. And what you can actually do is change the actual the bottom of the picture to create even just like a soft little adjustment like that, just so you've got a bit of movement in there. But you've got to be careful. I'll just show this as a demonstration because you can actually alter, any parts that are selected, which is why it's useful to lock your layers and things. So as our front layer, we'll just edit it a little bit like that, just to give a kind of bumpy road. And we can work on this as a bit later on. Now just behind this we want to create another layer. Just drag that in the middle. And we'll just call this second layer. Now the things in the foreground need to be darker, because as you go into the background you want to choose the softer, lighter colours to emphasise on the depth. So the next one that we want to use colour wise is possibly this reddish colour here. And what I'll just do is, as this front layer is locked, use another rectangle tool and just a bit higher, just select it all and drag down just to fill each side. Now you might feel that it's a bit strong still, so you can use the opacity and just change that slightly, and use your selection tool if you just want to change the height of it a little bit. And again we just use the warp tool just to kind of add a bit more. And you can see here where I didn't lock that layer that it's actually tried to edit it. So there we go, and I can move that one without fear of this front one being moved at all. So just by doing this it just creates a bit of distance between the front and the background, and as we add the more layers you'll be able to see a bit of a difference there. So as you can see here we've actually overrun slightly. We don't really want that in our picture, so if you select it you can actually use the pen tool and delete anchor point, and you can just delete that there, and that'll get rid of that point, and you can just use the selection tool just to pull it back out again. It's just to where you'd like it, really, just to kind of give a bit of a change there. Right, so this is our second layer. It's not much at the moment, but it's a good start for us to build on later. So if we lock this layer, create another one, and this is all in front of the colour background still, so when we add trees and things like that are in the distance, they can go in the back there. So this one we're going to call third layer, and again you're going to want a slightly lighter colour than what we've got there, so I've gone for this browny colour, so that should emphasise a bit more of the background. And again I'm just going to use the rectangle tool. I'm just going to create some kind of mountainous hills in the background there. So what we're going to use here is the pen tool. I'm just going to add a few points just on here. Actually what I'm going to use is the add anchor point. You can just add these wherever you wish. Use your direct selection tool. You can actually just pull them up just a little bit. Just to kind of give some different effects there. I actually prefer it not too high, so it looks not too bad. Just adjust that up. And there we go, we've got a bit of mountains there in the background. Now, what I think we should do next is to create just a bit of depth to that one. So we'll lock that layer, and underneath the colour background layer we're just going to create another layer, and we'll call this background. Now with this brown here, this is actually the same colour, but with this top one it's just reduced in opacity. So if I use my eyedropper on there, you can see that the opacity is actually 100%, whereas on this one it's actually 14%. So that's the difference in the colours there. So I'm just going to use one more rectangle tool and just quite high up drag that across and use that colour. You can see it really blends into the back there, so it's lighter than the actual colour. So that means you can just alter it and it will just like look quite effective. You can change the height to what you wish. And I'm just going to try and use these add anchor points in a few sections. To kind of give it a bit more using the warp tool again just to bring that across and just give it more of a mountainous feel, just like so. And next I think we'll just add some trees in, so I'm just going to add another layer, lock this one that we've just done and just call this trees. Now I'm just going to use a pen tool for this one. So say if I want some trees above my background layer, I could just choose something around here. Just drag across like so. And again, you'll probably want to change the opacity, so we had it at 14 before, so just drag it down. It just gives the illusion that there's trees there. So just change the height of this one. And you can even use Alt and drag it across to create as many trees as you'd like. Right, so that kind of gives us a basis and a nice depth of field there. But it does look strange where we've got nothing else on the front here, so I'm actually going to save this layer, or lock this layer even, and just behind the front layer, or just behind the front layer, I'm just going to add some more trees. But again, I'm going to use the black here so that it emphasizes that it's the in the front of all the other background there. So again, I'm just going to use my pen tool, just start from the top, just drag down. And obviously if your tree comes out a little strange like so, you can always just move it and then just use the direct selection tool to just alter the handles. Like so. Now we have the starting to background. You could have so many other trees here. You could add trees into the other layers if you wanted, or you could put buildings or landscapes or shacks and things in the background there. But that is the basis to your backgrounds and the way that you would create depth. Okay, thank you for watching and have fun playing.